dedicated to fighting evil while weaving her web of justice. It's Spider-Woman.
Hey folks, it's time to take a trip across the multiverse. Today we're going to visit the universe where all the Spider-Women and Spider-Girls exist. In this marvelous video, we will talk about all the incarnations of this superhero that has existed over the decades. The first Spider-Woman comic was released in 1977. Stan Lee wished to copyright the name Spider-Woman before DC Comics snagged it. Today there exists more than just one Spider-Woman all across the different realities, from Jessica Drew to Valerie de Libran and from Varanki to Madam Webb. Let's talk about some of the most well-known Spider-Women.
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Spider-Woman, aka Jessica Drew. Jessica Drew is the most popular Spider-Woman yet. We see her first appearance in the issue of Marvel Spotlight number 32, which was released in 1977. Jessica was raised by her scientist parents, Miriam and Jonathan Drew. They grew up near the outskirts of Mount Wundagore. This place is an ancestral site which is surrounded by witchcraft but also holds a large amount of uranium. When Jessica was still a little girl, all the exposure to the element made her ill. Her father, in hopes of immunizing his daughter from the uranium radiation present in her blood, injected her with it. This serum was made from several species of spiders, after which Jessica was kept in a state of stasis for several years. When she was orphaned, Hydra adopted her. Here she was brainwashed and recruited as an agent who was trained to attack S.H.I.E.L.D. under the codename Arachne. He served as one of Hydra's best agents, till an encounter with S.H.I.E.L.D. made her realize all of Hydra's horrific acts and she faced the real truth. Jessica's character was eventually killed off and replaced by a new Spider-Woman, but she was resurrected again. Her character lost some of its importance that it once held, and she wandered around working as a private investigator instead. Jessica Drew has faced a lot over the years. She has experienced quite a lot, from helping Carol Danvers out of a spiral of depression to being replaced by a Skrull. She even fought off alien invaders while being pregnant. Now, if that isn't badass, then we don't know what is. She is one of the Spider-Women who has dealt with several threats across multiple dimensions. Silk, the second ever person to be bitten by the same spider that infected Peter Parker, was none other than Cindy Moon. She was bit at the same time that Peter was. Cindy discovered her powers when she accidentally shot webbing that trapped and tangled up her parents. A man named Ezekiel Sims took her away to train her on how to use her powers. Ezekiel was someone who underwent a ritual that granted him the powers of the Spider Totem, which were similar to Spider-Man's. He discovered a predator by the name of Morlun was hunting him and Cindy. Morlun, who is a vampiric being and also seems to be immortal. He roams the earth hunting for totems to feed on. Ezekiel hid Cindy in a bunker for 7 long years to protect her from Morlun. Cindy was eventually found and freed by Peter Parker, who by this time had properly stepped into Spider-Man's role. Cindy, afraid that Morlun would continue to haunt her after Peter opened the bunker, attacked him, though she realized that Morlun was in fact dead and she was free. Donned in an improvised costume made from webs, she told Peter to refer to her as Silk. She then set off in search for her long-lost family. Some skills she possesses are akin to Spider-Man. She has a silk sense which warns her of any potential danger, and it is said to be much faster than the spider sense. Her silk sense allows her to perform better in combat. She also has the ability to spin organic webs from her fingertips into claw-like protrusions.
Guess I gotta play harder to get.
Black Cat. Black Cat, who is also known as Felicia Hardy, is considered to be an anti-hero vigilante. Felicia's father, Walter Hardy, was an infamous cat burglar who told Felicia never to settle before he was arrested. After she experienced being assaulted, Felicia decided never to let anyone else have that power over her again. She hated the idea of being a victim. She put aside her education and trained herself through several ways of acrobatics and fighting styles. Felicia finally set out for revenge after months of preparation, but the person responsible for her assault was killed in a car accident. Enraged at the fact of being denied revenge, Felicia decided to follow her father's path, but again, it wasn't long before she was arrested. She was freed from prison by Black Fox, a bold jewel thief that worked in the States. After gathering a hoard of stolen goods, Felicia decided to adapt a costume persona. This is when she became Black Cat. The first night when she put on her costume was to break her father out of prison. She met Spider-Man on the same night. She felt a relatedness to him despite her weird weariness towards men. Black Cat and Spider-Man eventually began a relationship. After a near-death experience, Felicia felt that her lack of superpowers made her a nuisance to Spider-Man. He would feel the overbearing need to protect her constantly. While he was away, Black Cat sought to gain a set of powers. She was offered to undergo a process that would give her powers similar to those of the Scorpion and the Fly. This offer was given to her by none other than the Kingpin, who is one of the most powerful mob bosses of the East Coast. She happened to gain the power of psychokinesis, or luck manipulation, which eventually allowed her to generate good and bad luck. She also possessed retractable, sharp claws. Valerie de Libran. Valerie de Libran was one of the first Spider-Women to exist. She was created even before Jessica Drew. She first made an appearance in an animated TV show named The Electric Company. The show ran as an educational children's show in the 70s. Valerie de Libran was a recurring character in the section of the same show called Spidey Super Stories. This was a live-action skit of the children's television workshop for The Electric Company. The segment of the show, Spidey Super Stories, taught children how to read. When Peter decided to take a sunbath on his roof, his costume somehow fell right into Valerie's lap. With the help of suction cups, she was able to perform more spider-like. A criminal and villain named the Vulture attempted to attack Spider-Man, but he was stopped by Valerie, who by this time had already donned a spider suit and adopted the name Spider-Woman. Valerie de Libran didn't have any powers, but she was Spider-Woman nonetheless. Madam Webb. Madam Webb, who is also known as Cassandra Webb, was born in Salem, Oregon. She was born blind and also suffered from a disorder known as myasthenia gravis. It is a known autoimmune disease that weakens the skeletal muscles. Cassandra also happens to be a precognitive mutant who possesses the abilities of clairvoyance. These abilities were said to be a side effect of her autoimmune disorder. Due to her illness, she sadly lost most of her mobility. Cassandra's husband, Jonathan Webb, designed a life support system for his wife. It was built in such a way that it looked like a giant spider, also playing a smart pun on their last name. Over the years, she advised Spider-Man with the help of her abilities. At first, Peter thought her to be a fraud, but when the Daily Globe was attacked, there was a clue that only Madam Webb could help him with. Peter went to her for help, which she provided. She also revealed that she knew he was Spider-Man. He reached out for her help yet again when he received a clue for an attempted assassination. Madam Webb was able to tell him exactly where the two assassins were so Spider-Man could deal with them. Madam Webb attended a ritual called the Gathering of the Five, for which 5 people come together with 5 arcane relics. When these relics are bought together, the ones who possess them can either be blessed or cursed with certain qualities. These can be either power, knowledge, immortality, insanity, or death. The twist lies in the fact that these qualities are not what they seem at first. In this sense, what seemed like madness was actually knowledge, and what seemed like insanity was actually immortality. Madam Webb was given immortality. Now, looking as though she aged backwards, Madam Webb summoned all the other Spider-Women who took part in the Gathering of the Five. She needed help in subduing her granddaughter, Charlotte Witter. Jessica Drew and Julia Carpenter, along with Maddie Franklin, helped Madam Webb. Arachne. In Greek mythology, Arachne was a figure known for her excellent weaving and spinning abilities. She was challenged to a weaving competition by the goddess Athena. The tapestry that Arachne wove for the competition showed all the sins the gods had carried out against mankind. This angered Athena, who turned her into a spider. Athena also cursed Arachne and all her descendants to weave webs for the rest of their lives. This is the story of how the first spider came to be. Arachne was one of the many deities who was recruited by Hera for the Olympus group. Marvel's Olympus group was originally the Dodecathlon and consisted of all the high Olympians. He fought all of Hercules' allies, including Spider-Man. Arachne arrived in New York City after Hercules was infected by the spider virus. She managed to trap all the X-Men into her weaved spider web. She also found herself extremely attracted to Hercules' spider form. Much to the X-Men's disdain, they were forced to watch this attraction being acted out on. Spider-Man told Arachne that the name she used was already taken by a member of the Omega Flight, a group of Canadian superheroes published by Marvel Comics. Arachne was then recommended to take up the title of either Spider-Woman or Spider-Girl. Charlotte Witter. Charlotte Webb, who was a reputable fashion designer and also the granddaughter of Madam Webb. Power was her drug of choice, and this pursuit led her to Dr. Octopus. He sensed psychic powers in her that weren't fully developed. He kidnapped her and using spider DNA, genetically engineered her into a spider-human hybrid. Charlotte resented Doc Ock for what he did to her and attempted to end his life several times. He used cruel methods of sensory deprivation, torture, and starvation, conditioned her to obey his every command. She was forced to do so as long as he supplied her with a steady stream of human blood to feed on. She also adopted the title of Spider-Woman and planned an attempt to take down Spider-Man. She began attacking all the other Spider-Women and absorbed their powers. She ambushed every single one from Jessica Drew and Julia Carpenter. Charlotte Witter then began working from an abandoned village in Greenwich and abducted unknowing men to feed on. Meanwhile, Madam Webb worked on assembling all the Spider-Women who had lost their powers to stop her ruinous granddaughter from doing any more harm. Using the psychic energy in Charlotte to track her, Madam Webb sent Jessica Drew and Maddie Franklin to stop her. While Witter was unconscious, Maddie reabsorbed all the stolen power from her. Eventually, she was defeated by both Maddie Franklin and Spider-Man, which left her in a dormant state of coma. Discussing her powers for a bit along with superhuman strength and speed, like all the other Spider heroes, Charlotte also possessed a range of other abilities. These included the power of venom blasts, power absorption, psychic spider legs, hypnosis, and precognition. Maddie Franklin. Maddie Franklin first appeared in the comics Spectacular Spider-Man number 262, released in 1998. When the ritual of the Gathering of the Five took place, Maddie took her father's place in it and received her powers. The ritual, which was organized by Norman Osborn, gave her superhuman strength and physical attributes along with the ability to fly. When Spider-Man vanished from the superhero scene for a few months, Maddie stepped in to fight villains in his name. In addition to superhuman strength, speed, stamina, durability, agility, and reflexes, Maddie also possesses the skills of flight, venom blasts, and wall crawling. She came to own a set of psionic spider legs, which once belonged to Charlotte Witter. These 4 legs sprung from her back whenever needed, and she could conceal them if she concentrated well. When Charlotte Witter began her rampage to attack all the Spider-Women, she went after Maddie as well. Spider-Man immediately set out to protect 15-year-old Maddie from Charlotte's attacks. She managed to merely injure Maddie before she was safely hidden away in Black Cat's apartment. Maddie also managed to reabsorb all the stolen powers from Charlotte back into herself. Eventually, Maddie went missing. She was seen breaking into Jessica Jones's apartment during a drug-fueled bender. Jessica decided to investigate only to reveal the fact that Maddie was being harvested for drugs by her boyfriend at the time. She was kept sedated and used to extract a drug called the mutant growth hormone, which needed a superhuman's genetic material. Jessica Jones managed to save her from this cruel abuse and get her back into her uncle. While Maddie Franklin's future as a superhero looked bright and full of opportunities, this path was laid to rest when she was sacrificed to revive Kraven the Hunter. Mary Jane Watson. In the most curious scenario, Peter Parker's main love interest also played the role of a heroic and very sapphic Spider-Woman in a whole different reality. In an alternate universe which was named as Legacy Planet, most of Earth's existing superheroes were seemingly consumed by a deadly virus, the Legacy virus. The Legacy virus was a deadly plague that plowed through the mutant population. The virus began mutating to the point where it became deadly even to humans. The Exiles, which are a dimension-hopping superhero group from different realities who are sent out to resolve problems within the multiverse, they landed in the universe to join the Earth Resistance, where they found Mary Jane as Spider-Woman, contributing to the same cause. Mary Jane Watson in Legacy Planet posed as a direct counterpart to Peter Parker of Earth 616. She had all the powers that Spider-Man possessed in this reality. When 2 of the members of the Exiles returned to this reality for a later mission, Mary Jane fell in love with one of them. Mary Jane, who was part of the Avengers in her reality, fell in love with Sunfire, who was the counterpart of the X-Men hero. Both the women knew they had limited time together, as the Exiles could be recalled and pulled away at any given moment. After Sunfire's tragic death, she was buried on the Legacy Planet so Mary Jane could visit her grave whenever she wished. Mary Jane herself was killed by Morlun, the immortal vampiric being, but it is said that she was resurrected later on. Spider-Bitch, aka Ashley Barton. Ashley Barton is the daughter of Hawkeye and Tonya Barton. Tonya is also Peter Parker's youngest daughter. In the issue of The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 3, Number 10, her code name was changed from Spider-Bitch to Spider-Woman and Spider-Girl to make it suitable for family and children. While she got possession of her grandfather's web shooters, she didn't gain the full degree of superhuman powers from Peter. Though it is said that she has an unknown degree of enhanced strength and agility, Ashley disapproved of the way that Kingpin controlled the area of Hammer Falls, aka Las Vegas. To deal with this, she gathered a group of superheroes and tried to seize his territory, only to be caught and put in line for the news. When Hawkeye, her father, broke her out of prison, she was astounded to discover that his daughter had managed to kill Kingpin for the purpose of taking over his territory and becoming the new Kingpin herself. She served this role after undergoing extensive self-taught physical training. Already abusing her newly gained power, she attempted to kill her own father and took full control of the wastelands herself. Hawkeye was then rescued by Logan, and Ashley sent her minions after both of them. Years later, Ashley went by the alias of Spider-Girl or Spider-Woman. She was hired by Dr. Octavius to kill Karn. Karn, who is also known as the Master Weaver, was originally part of the Inheritors, a group of people who swore to kill all who had spider powers across the multiverse. She managed to survive the conflict and return back to her reality with the remaining surviving spider people. Julia Carpenter. Julia Carpenter made her first appearance in the comic Secret Wars number 6, which was released in 1984. Julia Carpenter is considered one of the most iconic Spider-Women. The story of how she came to gain her powers is very interesting. A secret government organization known as the Commission on Superhuman Activities wished to create their own superhero. One of Julia's college friends convinced her to be a part of an athletic study for the commission. Unbeknownst to Julia, she was injected with a mix of spider venom and exotic plant extracts. This gave her powers similar to Spider-Man, and she became a secret government weapon. Some powers that she possesses are that of regeneration and superhuman tactile sense, along with all the other superhuman abilities we've discussed so far. Julia found herself drawn into Marvel's Secret Wars, after which she joined the Freedom Force. The Freedom Force was created when Mystique and the US government reached an agreement to pardon all the past crimes of mutants. Spider-Woman joined this team to work against X-Factor. She became a fugitive when she freed the arrested Avengers, but eventually surrendered to the government. Even after being arrested, she met up with and aided the West Coast Avengers on several occasions. Julia Carpenter's main enemies were her own rogues created by the Commission known as the Death Web. The Death Web consisted of 3 villains who kidnapped Julia's daughter, Rachel. The deal for the ransom that was demanded was that Julia would have to kill Spider-Man. While she nearly did kill him, she couldn't bring herself to take his life. Together, Spider-Man and Julia Carpenter as Spider-Woman saved Rachel. When her powers were absorbed by Charlotte Witter, Julia decided to take a break from the thrilling life of a superhero to instead focus on raising Rachel properly. She returned eventually, now using the codename Arachne, which was previously used by Jessica Drew. She even played the role of a double agent in the Superhuman Civil War. Varanki. Varanki is one of the rare Spider-Women who isn't human. She is the Skrull Empress that arranged the Secret Invasion. To refresh our memory, the Secret Invasion was the attempt made by a faction of shape-shifting Skrulls to infiltrate and take over humanity. During the Secret Invasion, Varanki posed as Jessica Drew, aka Spider-Woman. While the real Jessica Drew was captured at a Hydra, which was abundant with Skrull sleeper agents, Varanki also underwent the Skrull infiltration ritual. This was a process wherein the Skrulls were imbued with the powers and memories of the subject they selected to impersonate. So on top of all the powers she had as a Skrull Empress, she also gained all of Jessica's powers. She possessed the ability of bioelectric blasts, pheromone secretion, which mostly worked on men, and energy manipulation. Scarlet Witch created an alternate reality in which the wishes of the Avengers came true and mutants were the ones who ruled the world. Much to her disappointment, Jessica's wishes came true and not Varanki's. When Captain America confronted her, she admitted to being a double agent but for Hydra. Many superheroes were almost killed or put in extreme danger, all thanks to Varanki. In a lot of ways, her goals for the Secret Invasion were successful. Eventually, she was beaten by Wolverine and Hawkeye. Shortly after, she was killed by Norman Osborn. What are some of the best alternate versions of the Spider-Girls? After every Spider-Woman and Spider-Girl we've spoken about so far, here are even more alternate options to the traditional Spider-Women. These posed as remarkable alternatives should a live-action Spider-Woman movie or TV show be created. Another person who holds great potential for the next Spider-Woman is May Parker. Also known as Mayday Parker from the MC2 alternate universe. This alternate universe showed us the future of Marvel and its superheroes when it first came into existence. May's first appearance was in a comic series titled What If, number 105, that was released in 1998. She is the daughter of none other than Peter Parker and Mary Jane, and possesses all the same abilities as her father. Though she goes by many names, currently as Spider-Girl, she has been featured in a lot of interdimensional storylines for the comics as well. While we already spoke about the classic Jessica Drew of Earth 616, the Ultimate Jessica Drew is, in fact, a clone of Peter Parker. She was part of the Ultimate comic series that came out in the 2000s. She possesses all of Spider-Man's powers and the ability to make silk-spinning webs from her fingertips. Another character from the Ultimate comic series that would make a great Spider-Woman is Kitty Pryde. The transition from being a part of the X-Men to becoming Spider-Woman for a moment in time was quite smooth for her. This was goaded by the fact that Kitty and Peter go to the same school and even dated for a while. She helped Peter after she had adopted the Spider-Woman persona for a short while. Next, we're talking about May Riley from Earth 803. May's first appearance was in the comic issue of Spider-Verse number 1 that was released released in 2014. She is considered to be one of the best variations of Spider-Woman due to her cool steampunk style. She doesn't have any superhuman powers, but instead a very impressive set of mechanical spider legs similar to Madam Web. Our next alternative is bound to get some giggles from solely her name, introducing May Porker, or Swiney Girl. She first appeared in the Amazing Spider-Man Family #4, which was released in April of 2009. She comes from the same insanely unhinged universe as Spider-Ham. Both the anthropomorphic superheroes are from Earth 8311. May Porker is the counterpart of Mayday Parker from her universe. She wears a black suit similar to Julia Carpenter. And lastly, we have our dear Gwen Stacy. Her character has become even more popular since the release of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. She is also known as Spider-Gwen. Originally, she was killed by the Green Goblin in the 1970s, but then revealed to be Spider-Woman in her home universe. In her reality, she was the one bitten by the irradiated spider instead of Peter Parker that gave her all the powers. Conclusion. So there you have it, a long and comprehensive list of all our dearest arachnid women who had been totally owning the spider superhero scene. Most of these are very familiar to comic book fans and might have been briefly mentioned in movies or TV series. As a wise man once said, with great power comes great responsibility. Being blessed with superhuman abilities, the skill to swing from skyscrapers to rooftops, and dealing with a madness across multiverses can be an immense duty to fulfill. Can fans hope to see more Spider-Women on screens in the foreseeable future? We can't wait to find out.
If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.